24 of 20... Hello, welcome to the Wild Review, and welcome to night 24 of 31 Wild Halloween Review Nights. Today we're going to do something a little bit differently. I might go off the normal structure of how I've been doing this, because we're going to be talking about not a film, not a TV special, but a TV show, which is something that I've been avoiding, not just for this project, but also for the Christmas one. This was a rule I had with the Christmas series. I gave myself a number of rules to follow. One of them, which I don't believe I made public, I just kind of kept that to myself as like a promise. I was not going to talk about holiday specials for television shows. 25 Wild Christmas Review Days was just strictly going to be for Christmas films, or even the television Christmas specials, since you had the Grinch and the Rankin Bass stuff in the mix of classic Christmas content that I wanted to talk about. The same thing went for this project. I didn't want to talk about any holiday-themed episodes of any TV shows I liked. I wanted to stick with the films and the one-off television specials, and the reason for that was because I just wanted to be a little adventurous. It's kind of a typical thing for me to discuss television episodes or TV shows. You know, if you go down the catalog of Wild Review stuff on this channel, you'll know majority of the stuff that I do talk about are TV shows. I believe I talk about more TV stuff rather than movie stuff. And it's very easy for me to just sit down for maybe this project and watch Scaredy Pants from SpongeBob, or Scary Godparents from Fairly Odd Parents, or any Cartoon Network holiday special from, I don't know, Ed, Edd n Eddy, or did Chowder have any? They probably had one, but Chowder was a bit different. They didn't celebrate the normal holidays. So I strictly stayed away from any television show that had a Christmas special or Halloween special, and just wanted to stick with the films and one-off TV specials. And then about a week or two before I officially started filming for this project, I came to terms that I can make one exception when it comes to The Simpsons. Because if you know where I'm going with this, The Simpsons, which first off, if you don't know who The Simpsons are, you've clearly been living on Mars. The Simpsons is one of the longest running animated shows. It's been going on for 30 years now. They just recently started their 32nd season. In fact, tonight, as I'm recording this, they're airing their second episode. So the season actually started last week. Not your time, but the time of making this video. The Simpsons, I don't want to say are the pros at Halloween specials, but they have a very unique series along with their normal series that airs every Halloween. They do something called Treehouse of Horror, which has kind of become a staple of the Halloween season on its own. A lot of people seem to go back to Treehouse of Horror. Now that The Simpsons are owned by Disney, they are showing Simpsons episodes on Freeform. So now the Treehouse of Horror episodes get not only just their day-long marathon, but also a marathon for a few hours if they're sharing the slots with other films that they're playing on their Halloween lineup. Yeah, and as much as it is a bit unfair that I'm going to be talking about TV episodes, which I did not want to do, it would seem a bit unfair as well to do a Halloween series where I'm talking about all this stuff and not at least mention The Simpsons. Especially since it has been going on for so long, much like how The Simpsons has been going on for so long. And if you're a normal human, you'll agree, The Simpsons has been going on for too damn long. When's the last time I saw The Simpsons? Well, it was today, right before making this video. Other than watching Treehouse of Horror both this year and last year when they did their marathon, I have not seen The Simpsons in years. 2010, 2011? It was a while. I thought it'd be interesting. I thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about, so here I am today, breaking my rule of not talking about TV episodes as we dive in to Treehouse of Horror. Treehouse of Horror is an annual Halloween special for the show The Simpsons. The first special was the third episode in Season 2 that aired on October 25th, 1990. The name Treehouse of Horror comes from the first episode taking place in The Simpsons' treehouse with Bart and Lisa telling scary stories. These episodes allow the show to tell stories that normally wouldn't fit with The Simpsons' typical formula, and do things to the characters that wouldn't be canon in the following episode. Since Season 2, every season that followed has had a new Treehouse of Horror special, whether it's putting the characters in spooky supernatural Halloween scenarios or parodying pop culture such as novels, films, or other TV shows. Alright, so how is this going to work? Am I going to talk about all 30 different specials? No, because it would be kind of ridiculous for me to sit here and discuss 30 different Halloween specials. Plus, I personally feel that it would take way too much time. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to discuss 3 different episodes. I'm going to talk about the first Treehouse of Horror episode that aired in Season 2. Then I'm going to talk about my favorite Treehouse of Horror and my first Treehouse of Horror that I've ever seen, which is the 6th Treehouse of Horror special, which was part of Season 7. And then we're going to look at the most recent Treehouse of Horror, the 30th one, which was part of Season 31. I have no idea by the time if this video comes out whether or not the 31st Treehouse of Horror is coming out. I know The Simpsons are airing their 32nd season right now, so I'm just letting you know that at the time of recording this video, the most recent one is Treehouse of Horror number 30. So we're going to take a look at these 3, I'll talk about them, and I'll give my little opinion on them. I should also mention that I have seen more than just these 3 Treehouse of Horrors. I've seen a good number of them. I haven't seen all of them, but I've seen a good number of the first couple as well as the last couple. With that said, let's get involved. Let's talk about this stuff. The first one is pretty unique as we get a glimpse of The Simpsons in their natural environment as well as in what I'm going to call Fantasyland, because it's Bart and Lisa telling stories. More of Bart, because Lisa reads from a book. Every Treehouse of Horror episode has 3 different segments to them. The first story is called Bad Dream House. The next one is called Hungry Are the Damned, which focuses on the Simpsons getting abducted by the 2 aliens, Kang and Codis, which, fun fact, this is their first official appearance in the show. And finally we have The Raven, which is just the Simpsons adaptation of The Raven. It's just Simpson characters acting out the story. This one felt like a Halloween special. Even though the alien story didn't necessarily feel all Halloween-y, the setup of telling stories on a Halloween night in a treehouse, that definitely gave off a Halloween tone, a Halloween vibe, if you want to put it that way. The house story I really enjoyed. I felt that was a pretty neat story on its own. I know they're kind of basing it off of another story that's kind of like that. I can't think of it on the top of my head. I like how creepy it is, especially being that this is the first Treehouse of Horror episode that's aired. It's got that creepy Halloween feeling to it. With the house story, I really like how the voice gets in everybody's head except for Marge's. And I like how all the family members become not really possessed, but they just have the urge to kill one another. I really like that because that completely takes the whole idea of The Simpsons from what we've seen so far and kind of turns them upside down. And that right there just says how creepy this whole thing is. Hungry Are the Damned was a pretty fun story as well. I like how they were hinting at the aliens trying to feed up the Simpsons so this way they can later eat them. That's what Lisa was suspecting, and she finds the book. And I did laugh when they kept blowing dust off of it, revealing, oh, it's not a book on how to cook humans, it's a book how to cook for humans. And then they blow more dust off and they see a different word which means something different, and then, you know, it goes back to, oh, we're just taking care of the humans. I like how, especially at the end of it, Lisa's like, turns out we were the real monsters after all. Like, they did a play on who the real monster was in that story. The Raven one, you know, it was The Raven. It was the Edgar Allan Poe story. So, you know, I mean, other than it being with Simpson characters, there really wasn't nothing new to it. But overall, I like this specific episode. I like how creepy it can be. The stories didn't necessarily have anything to do with Halloween, but that's kind of made up for the story itself, the whole episode taking place on Halloween, and this is how the kids are spending their time. So it's fun. It was a cute little thing to watch, and it was a Simpsons Halloween episode. It was the first Halloween episode. Next up we got Treehouse of Horror 6, which, as I said, was my favorite Treehouse of Horror, and it's specifically because of the third story that's told, Homer Cubed. But we can get to that in a second. The other stories that are part of this episode include Attack of the 50-Foot Eyesores, which focuses on these tall advertising statues and billboard characters coming to life because Homer stole the Lard Lad Donuts donut, and he surprisingly ate it, which made me question if it was a real donut or not, because that doesn't seem healthy. The other story is Nightmare on Evergreen Terrace, which is a parody of Nightmare on Elm Street. That deals with groundskeeper Willie dying and appearing in the dreams of all the kids at the school and killing them one by one. So Bart and Lisa try to, in their dreams, deal with the problem by stopping Willie. The ending was pretty funny, how he just shows up and he tries to just scare them by just saying boo, and apparently he did have a gun on with him, but he left it on the bus, and it's typical groundskeeper Willie nonsense as he leaves the scene. That one was funny. But what I really like is Homer Cubed, which sees Homer going into a different dimension, specifically the third dimension, and he becomes all bulgy-like the animation's different. Not much Halloween action going on, not much scary action either. To compare it to a Twilight Zone episode, kind of like how Homer compares it to being like the Twilight Zone, I guess you can. I don't see it like that. I just see it as a cool, different animation style for Homer, one that we've never seen before. But, you know, it was fun on its own. I really laughed when he made the joke on how everything looked really expensive and that even him just standing in place could be costing somebody a fortune. You know, that's a reference to how animation like that can be pretty costly. And I didn't catch that when I first watched this years ago. But now looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah, I like that one. I found enjoyment out of that. There really weren't that many Halloween elements to this specific episode. I guess the beginning has a little. They did a couch gag where all the Simpsons were hung. They show the Headless Horseman running in the night and then show the title. So, you know, not much Halloween, but, you know, it's a classic for me. Taxi! Finally, we have the most recent one, Treehouse of Horror 30. And the most interesting thing about this episode is that it's the 666th episode of The Simpsons, which I don't think they could have resisted doing their Treehouse of Horror episode on that specific number. I don't blame them. The stories in this one, they have a story called Danger Things, which I'm pretty sure is what the Henry Danger version of Stranger Things was called. Obviously it's a parody of Stranger Things. They don't really do it right. Like, you think with a parody they would be able to parody all the specific characters. Like, obviously the four kids, and then you have the sister of Mike, her name's blanking on me. Hopper, who plays a big part in the story, and even Eleven, her character's not done right in this. Like, I feel like they dealt with the concept of Stranger Things in this, but they kind of just rushed through the whole story. At one point you see Milhouse gone, and then we cut to his parents who are freaking out, and they already set up the Christmas lights. It's like, I know you only have like 8 minutes to tell this story, but there was a better way you probably could have told it. Lisa essentially plays Eleven, but it's not the same way that Eleven is done in Stranger Things. You know, we see her before her scene where she goes into the water to try to contact Will, and then somehow they all get stuck there, which doesn't make sense at all. I feel like they were not doing a parody of Stranger Things, but more just doing the Simpsons version of Stranger Things, which I don't know how I feel about that. Also, because Stranger Things took place in the 80s, the Simpsons just felt to put as many 80s references as they can, for whatever reason. The next story is called Heaven Swipes Right, which is apparently a parody of a film called Heaven Can't Wait from 1978. I can't make a comment on that film because I've never seen it. I haven't heard about it until I looked it up for this episode. Don't know what it was about. Couldn't tell you the plot. Couldn't tell you the characters. But if it's anything like what The Simpsons parodied, I hope they did it a little better. Homer dies, but turns out he's not supposed to die at that moment, so the people up in heaven upgrade his body, and they give him a body that also died. The whole episode, it's just him going through different bodies because he keeps wrecking the bodies, and Marge isn't happy with the body that he chooses, so that's what that 8 minutes is spent on, just Homer going through different bodies, until he gets into Moe's body. And Moe is in the body of the baby, which must mean the baby must have died. Finally, we have a story called When Harry Meets Slimy, which is a parody on The Shape of Water, another film I have not seen. And I gotta be honest, I kind of zoned out a little, because I didn't get it. It didn't seem that interesting to me. It focused on Selma and Kang. Selma falls in love with Kang, who's supposed to be this water creature, and they try to escape. And they escape. And that's it. But hey, I like the 6th Treehouse of Horror. Now, of course, I've seen other Treehouse of Horror episodes. I saw 1 through 6 itself on TV when they did the marathon last year. I remember I saw the one where they meet, the ones from the Tracy Ullman show. I remember I saw only that specific story. I didn't see the other stories that were before that because this was the last story. And I saw them interact with their old previous incarnations. And then I also saw all the different versions of The Simpsons, including the Adventure Time versions of them. I've seen a good number of Treehouse of Horrors, and for me to sit down and go over all 30 of them, I mean, clearly I'm losing my voice just by talking about 3 of them, you know. I'd be here all night if we were talking about 30 of them. This would probably be an hour-long video, which, oh Jesus, that'd be a long uploading wait. Where I'm essentially going with this is I want to bring up a topic that I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably have heard before regarding not just The Simpsons, but also Treehouse of Horror. It doesn't feel too Halloween-y anymore. You know, with the first few Treehouse of Horror episodes, specifically the first 2, even though the stories may have not involved anything Halloween-like, it at least took place on Halloween. Like, the first one, you have the kids in the treehouse on Halloween night telling stories. Okay, that works. The second one, you have them after they went trick-or-treating. They had candy, and then they all have nightmares as they sleep. The stories we are seeing are essentially linked to their dreams. I mean, some of the stories have Halloween elements to them. I'd like to think that the house story in the first Treehouse of Horror, that is linked to a Halloween kind of scenario because you're dealing with a haunted house. I know there's a story where Bart becomes a vampire, so that's a Halloween story. You have one with Homer dealing with the devil, who's in the form of Ned Flanders. The devil can be associated with Halloween at times. I don't consider him a Halloween character, but, you know, it's a bit spooky. I mean, even the 6th one doesn't have that much Halloween in it. And you can kind of see where I might be going with this. These Halloween specials, even though they may have the look of being Halloween-like, they really aren't. And you can probably tell just from talking about the 30th one, I wasn't that impressed with it. Yeah, even with the Stranger Things one, I've seen Stranger Things, so I was hoping it'd be a good parody, and it really wasn't. It wasn't even a parody. But that's essentially what Treehouse of Horror takes advantage of nowadays. Because it is the one episode of The Simpsons where they can do anything without consequence, they strictly go for the parody kind of stuff. They take whatever supernatural film or horror film is out there, and they do their best to do their own version of it. I remember they did an E.T. parody. I could be wrong, but they may have done a Tron. I'm pretty sure they've done a Harry Potter parody, and if that's not right, I know I've seen The Simpsons and Harry Potter merged before. They mostly just focus on the parody kind of stuff nowadays. And I think that's not fun, you know? I think because it has gone on for so long, they are starting to run out of ideas. I mean, people I think are saying that about The Simpsons just in general, that they've lost their steam. I'm not feeling the Halloween and Treehouse of Horror anymore. Like, there are some stories that do Halloween type stories, and then there are those that don't deal with Halloween type stories. Another one that's coming to mind is one with the black hole that just appears out of nowhere in Springfield, and everyone's trying to figure out what to do with it. I mean, that's a fun story. I enjoyed that one as well, but I think they're taking more advantage with the parodies than just coming up with unique original Halloween stories. I don't watch The Simpsons anymore. As for Treehouse of Horror, I would personally stick with maybe the first 10. Each one's unique in their own way, though, I'm not going to lie. Some of them can be enjoyable, you just got to find the right stories. Definitely the first 6 are pretty good. I enjoyed the first 6 a lot. So if you've never seen a Treehouse of Horror, I would definitely watch at least the first 6 of them. They're all on Disney Plus, so you know that's a plus for you to find them. Ooh. Treehouse of Horror is a Halloween series in The Simpsons. It's a thing. There are some good ones. There are some pretty bad ones. We're probably never going to stop getting them. Just going to have to live with them, I guess. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen a Treehouse of Horror. Which one is your favorite? Which one do you not like? It would have been really cool, now thinking of it, if I talked about the best Treehouse of Horror and the worst Treehouse of Horror and compared them. But I couldn't find any of those because everybody has their different opinion on what the best and worst one is. So that idea was not gonna work. But that's it. That's all I got about Treehouse of Horror. That's even a little review on The Simpsons. It's The Simpsons. That's all I got for this video. Join me tomorrow as we get back onto the road of rules and talk about a television special that you probably never heard of before. You probably even never knew it existed. But tomorrow I'm gonna bring it to your attention and maybe you might find it interesting. Thanks for watching The Wild Review. I'm The Wild Reviewer, and you just saw me review a thing. That was the initial plan. And then, a little before I made... I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, that hurt. Oh, that hurt in my chest. Oh, I sneezed too hard. Sometimes I sneeze so hard that my chest hurts. I'm different, I know.